Activity started.
Hello and welcome to Easy Like a Sunday Morn. I'm your host Shane Lockwood and this is episode 55. Today is Monday the 16th of May, and yes, I realise this is a day late yet again, but we'll endeavour to move along anyway. What I've decided to do today, and it may or may not be a success. Right now it's starting to look like it's a waste of time, but what I'm going to do is walk for 3 kilometres around a fit loop track and speak to you for the next 30 minutes. Now, hopefully you would have written down a few goals and things, and the reason I say that this is probably going to be a failure is because I'm in a public place, it's broad daylight, I'm walking around a fitness loop, and everybody wants to walk their dogs or go for a bit of a walk after school and whatnot. So of course you've got kids screaming and yelling, you've got Cessna planes flying over, I had 747s flying over the top of me and trains going past and all sorts of stuff, right? This is why I'd like to be able to record podcasts properly, and that requires a computer with which to be able to do these things. But what I do normally is when I do my exercise, I will record. No, I won't record anything. I'll record my run keeper stuff, the distance, but I will also listen to a whole heap of podcasts. So I thought, well, why not put my money where my mouth is, so to speak, and actually record a podcast while I'm walking and talking. Yes, I do have the cognitive capacity to do both. You wouldn't believe it, but it's true. And I've just done a kilometre lap, and what had happened was, oh, by the way, this will cut in and out. The Runkeeper app will cut across me, and I will just let her speak. She is loud, so do maybe reduce the volume on your speakers, just in case. Once again, I can't edit anything out. That's just the way it goes. Hopefully last week, last week, because I'm not that far behind, you would have written out a list of things that you'd like to accomplish over the next 50 weeks to a year, which is 52 weeks, and start making small incremental changes towards those things, whether it be losing weight or getting fitter or just putting money aside. You know, $20 a week for 50 weeks is $1,000. It doesn't seem like a whole lot, but then you've got to look at your own bank account and say, well, hang on, do I have $1,000 to spare in case your computer dies? And it will. Not being pessimistic, it's going to happen. It's delusional to think that it won't, or it'll just get outdated or whatever. So, but that's $1,000 that you could do with whatever you wanted, if you can spare $20 a week. Now the thing is, a lot of us waste money and we're not really aware of where we're spending it. So there's all sorts of apps that you can track your spending with and things like that. I'm not too keen on that. I got very bored with that very quickly. But it's good if you want to track a goal, like paying off a lay-by, a layaway, or putting money aside for a holiday or trip overseas or whatever it is that you want to do. And I'm not telling anybody how to live their life. I'm just thinking that in order to improve my life, I need to be a bit more accountable.
Time, 4 minutes, 59 seconds. Distance, 0.35 kilometers. Average pace, 14 minutes, 6 seconds per kilometer.
Now that's what I'm talking about with the thing cutting in. But, wow, my pace is really slow because I'm walking and talking and having to stop and slow down because people are walking dogs and all sorts of stuff. But yeah, hopefully you would have written down that list and put it on the fridge. If you haven't, just grab a notepad and write down a list of stuff that you want to sort of work on. Not necessarily a goal, like a big goal, but maybe to focus on some habits, small habits that you can change in your life. For example, eating more protein. And this is a weird thing that I was doing a whole lot of research into weight loss and exercise stuff and things like that. And there's a lot of just really, really bad advice on YouTube. Some vegans are endorsing various forms of orthorexia, which is an eating which covers all sorts of eating disorders. But no, actually, orthorexia is when you have an aversion to certain types of food. Right now, veganism in itself is an aversion to animal products like meat, cheese, dairy, honey, and so on and so forth. What I've decided to do is, rather than because I've gone through that restrictive thing, raw veganism and not cooking food, and it messes with your head, and it's crazy. The moment your friend wants to go out and shout your McDonald's or something like that, then it starts to play with your head. And no, so I think no more restrictions like that. Please excuse the train. No restrictions like that. I can eat whatever I want. I downloaded a few fitness apps, weight loss apps, so I can keep track of my diet. I realise that there are people who listen to this podcast and they eat roughly the same thing every day, and they do the same amount of exercise every day, and they stay the same weight every day, and that's fine. But I had a scare of my life. I've never had a heart attack or anything like that, but I was getting dizzy spells and sweats and things like that, and I was probably borderline diabetic, but I don't know. I haven't seen a doctor in a while, so I just took everything put everything in my own hands. Took responsibility, took hold of the reins of my life, and got a set of scales, bathroom scales for accountability, and a pair of running shoes, these weight loss apps. I was talking to a guy, and I asked him what his secret was. I said, well, how are you, what's your secret? Are you lifting weights? Are you doing this? Are you doing that? And he said, no. I'm just eating a whole heap of vegetables, and he switched from eating red meat to eating tuna. And because you do need to eat protein, like I've said before. Protein is what allows your muscles and your body to heal itself. Carbohydrates such as sugars and your breads and all your grains and things like that, those sorts of things your body uses for fuel. And fats, paradoxically, are actually good for you in moderation. What they do is they line your organs and do all sorts of stuff, right? They do coat your arteries and stuff like that. But it's when they clog your arteries that's when you're in big trouble. So the idea being, you modify the amount of calories that you're eating, but you also do a lot more exercise and things like that. So I've started exercising more. I've lost a grand total of 12
9 minutes, 59 seconds. Distance, 0.71 kilometers. Average pace, 13 minutes, 59 seconds per kilometer.
Yeah, I've lost a grand total of 12 kilograms, which is 26 pounds on the old scale. I did mention that. I'm starting to repeat myself because I didn't take notes. I did take notes actually, but I didn't bring them with me. What else? The other thing I began to think about is, like, why did I want to improve my life and my fitness and things like that? And I hadn't really given it much thought, and the why question is the big one. But once you answer that, that's what motivates you. That's what you have in front of your fridge. You have it on your phone, so when you look at your phone, oh, okay, that's why I'm doing whatever it is that I'm doing. Now, my focus is on fitness. Your focus might be completely different. Your focus, you might be completely happy with the weight that you're at now, and I'm not pushing weight loss on anybody or anything like that. This is a very easygoing podcast. You can just sit back, relax, listen to it, unwind, sleep if you have to, meditate to it, whatever. Use my voice as a chime, meditation chime if you wish. But the idea is self-improvement. That's what the 50 weeks until awesome is, whether it's financial, spiritual, physical, whatever you want to do. And that covers quite a bit actually, those umbrella terms. Oh dear. It really annoys me sometimes when you try to record something, and I realise it's a weird thing to record something in public, because you'll get people who will look at you and try to figure out what you're doing or whatnot. Luckily I'm holding a phone, so it looks like I'm actually talking to somebody, so that's not too bad. But there's a guy in front of me walking his dog, and people walk their dogs really slow, and he's not curbing his dog at all, just letting the dogs go up to trees and do whatever. And so I've got to keep an eye on the ground, make sure I'm not spreading stuff that I shouldn't, and things like that. But it annoys me, it frustrates the hell out of me. But yeah, coming up to 1 kilometre. Now, I was going to do 3 kilometres, but I'm going to have to really pick up the pace for that to happen, because I'm currently taking 13 minutes to do 1 kilometre. That's too slow. But normally, when I jog or exercise, it's usually later at night, and there's less distractions and less noises and things carrying on. Oh dear. Small changes, small ripples spread out over the course of 50 weeks. And I'm not going to be focusing on that too much throughout the next year. For example, hopefully I'll have, if I do this every week, I'll have, the extra 50 episodes for this podcast. Hopefully I'll have this grow and expand. That's the other thing I'm looking at doing, is just buying more space. And I think that costs like $40 a year or something like that. So I think it's $5 a month or $40 a year as a discount. That's US price. And I'll get more space to store the podcast, and also I can see all the stats and things like that, who's watching, who's listening from where, and should I be, should I be catering to a certain audience? Should I make local references to, parts of the United States to make people feel a little bit more comfortable?
Time, 14 minutes, 59 seconds. Distance 1.06 kilometers. Average pace 14 minutes, 5 seconds per kilometer.
Now, that may be annoying to you, but that to me is and I found it annoying at first, but once you keep going, it makes exercising a little bit more easier because you're given a pace, and you can then pick up the pace and things like that. You can increase your speed, you can compete against yourself, which is always great to do. I've currently burnt 96 calories. Can you say the same, sitting there listening to this? I have to think of a code word as well. Interesting stuff. Okay, so we've got just over 13 minutes to go, and I haven't told you anything really. Today it rained really heavily, and in Adelaide when it does rain heavily, it doesn't do so for very, very long, maybe 5-10 minutes in patches. Anyway, it rained really heavily for at least half an hour this morning, and I had to go to work for the dole, and they waited till everybody was there, and because it was wet, they let us go at 10 o'clock this morning, and because I only live across the street, it's not too bad anyway, but we had to waste like an hour because he couldn't get organised. But when I came home, I found out that there was one of the TV antennas of one of the local units that have been vacated, been deserted. You can hear kids on bikes and scooters. Scooters are the flavour of this generation, it seems. 5 kids, 4 scooters, 1 bike, another cyclist. But I'm keep going. Keep on moving on. If I do anything like this again, I'll probably do it at night, and I'll have a list of topics and things that I want to talk about. I did have a list at home. I just thought this was an experiment. It might fail dismally, but then again, I think that my podcast anyway. Really. Yeah. Oh, I've got to go silent for a bit because there's kids around, there's people behind me. So what I'd like you to do is leave comments and emails and things letting me know whether you use the 50 weeks until awesome system at all, and if there's anything, because what I don't want to do is become like a cult leader or somebody who's trying to sell you on fake promises and things like that, because ultimately you have to do the work, right? And it means that you might have to change some things in your life. Maybe it's time for change. Maybe it's time to cut certain people out of your life. 15 weeks ago, I had an on again, off again relationship that was rather abusive, and she said, don't contact me ever again, and then the waiting game begins. You know, you think, okay, how long is it going to be? It's going to be a day, 3 days, a week, a month. So 12 weeks goes by, and then she unblocks me and sends me a friends with request.
Time 19 minutes, 59 seconds. Distance 1.44 kilometers. Average pace 13 minutes, 50 seconds per kilometer.
I would just like to say that my average pace is around about 11 minutes 30 per kilometre, but that's because my mind's trying to do two things at once. So it's slowing me down somewhat, and there were people behind me. I'll have another look. No, there's nobody there. And the sun is just starting to... It'll set within about half an hour or so. But... Yeah. Relationship that was rubbish. It was abusive. This is woman. I really should talk about this woman, but I don't want to embarrass her at all because she can listen to this. But this is a woman that thought she was a reincarnation of Julius Caesar, Bob Marley, Nikola Tesla, John Oppenheimer. Because it's always someone famous, isn't it? It's never someone who scrubs the toilets or anything like that. What's that? So someone... target achieved. My daily target is to do 6,000 steps. But that's only around about 4 kilometres. Now, I want to point out that I'm not doing... I'm not doing the minimum. I'm doing more than 4 kilometres. When you see me upload stuff to to Facebook, the Runkeeper stuff, that's extra. That's an extra 4 kilometres. That's an extra 5 kilometres. That's an extra 10 kilometres on whatever it is that I happen to be doing during the day. And normally I might walk to the shops and back, and you'd be lucky to get 2 kilometres out of that sort of thing. Excuse the wind. Terrible podcast audio. And I can't edit it at all. This is what happens when people don't fund things. If you want things to improve, to grow, whatever. It's funny how the people that came against me were against growth. They talked about this podcast growing, but they were against it growing. They asked me, why don't you monetize the podcast? But then said that their focus was never on money. It's funny how that works, But that's hypocrites for you. I've got to go quiet again. And I hate that. I know you do too. I think you do. I don't know. I can't speak for you. Oh dear. It's this time of night everybody walks their dogs. I should have done this at night. I should have waited. But then again, you wouldn't have had the entertainment of me reacting to all the crap that's going on. But anyway, back to the story. 15 weeks ago, 12 weeks later, after she said don't contact me ever again, she sent me a words with friend request with the word damner, Damner, and I think that will be the code word. I'm going to turn a negative into a positive, and the code word for today is damner. That's Damner. And if you are listening to this podcast this far, use that code word on any of the social media that you know me through, whether it's Twitter, through Facebook, through YouTube. And what will happen is they're not after me, they're not trying to get me, if you can hear the sirens. What will happen is that lets me know who actually listens to this the whole way through.
Time 24 minutes, 59 seconds. Distance 1.80 kilometers. Average pace 13 minutes, 50 seconds per kilometer.
Okay, so we're coming up to the second kilometre. I think the GPS is out slightly with Runkeeper. I don't know why, but it's saying, okay, no, it's 1.8 kilometres, 1.84, 157 calories burnt. So think of little things like this. You could have burnt 159 calories in the last 25 minutes. Something to think about. But that's just me walking at a leisurely pace. Actually, it's about an average of about 4.34 kilometres per hour. Plus the extra kilometre that I did. Okay, so anyway, she sent me the word dammer, and I had a good friend in my Facebook list who said, look, don't go back to her, because you're just inviting yourself for more and more nonsense. And these are the people that you really shouldn't let into your life anyway. But being male and being men, there's a tendency to want to be the white knight, the knight in shining armour. You want to rescue these damsels in distress. But the problem with that is that these women don't help themselves. They manipulate other people into doing stuff for them, and that's not good for anybody. And I'd been feeding her delusions and stuff like that as well. It's just terrible. It really, really was. She had meltdowns on my... Oh no, just the one, I'll be fair. Just the one massive meltdown on my Facebook wall where everybody could see it. I was in a Google Hangout and I said, hey guys, check this out. And I said, don't post anything, don't comment. And she just went mental. Now, she's had some rough experiences in her life, so you feel sorry for her and stuff like that. But there's a point where I had to protect myself and say, look, I don't need this kind of abuse anymore. Oh look, a kookaburra just flew past. Awesome stuff. That's one of the benefits of being Australian, I guess. I've got less than 2 minutes to go. Thank you very much for listening to this podcast, listening to me ramble on and get stuff off my chest, because I don't very often get this opportunity to do. Most people compile together the talented people compile high quality podcasts and things like that. They can edit stuff, they can put sound effects. I'm stuck with Cessnas flying past, and I hope that you're pissing yourself laughing, because I see the humour in that. This very dry humour. But, you know, these are frustrations. That's where the humour should come from. You got to try and do something, and there's always a force of opposition, regardless of what it is that you plan to do. This has not gone as planned. I should have been walking a lot faster for some reason. I think talking and thinking about things to fill a podcast in does affect your walking pace. They say you should never really exert yourself to the point where you can't actually speak, which is probably a good idea if you're going to walk and talk and record a podcast at the same time. What do you reckon? Anyway, I hope that today has gone easy, and that the rest of today and the rest of the week is easy like a Sunday morn. I will speak to you next week, and we'll have a whole lot more cool stuff to talk about. Bye.